BRB UK. Worse teeth, better accents.
Hello and welcome to BRB UK episode 626. It's the podcast you love from the UK that loves screaming into the void of the video game industry. With me is Tim.
Yeah.
And our favourite, our fifth Beatle of BRB UK, it's Ed.
I wish I was as talented as Billy Preston, but I was going to do a better joke, and then I just...
Fine. And I am Coleman. No Dan this week. Dan has personal things to do, so hopefully he's back next week for us. But yes, it's an exciting episode. We've got a lot to get to, but before we do, I will say go to bigredbarrel.com. It's the website that hosts this here podcast. There you can find links to this here episode, all the other episodes before, other shows, videos, articles, and links to all our social media websites. So go do that. bigredbarrel.com. I'm a little bit all of sorts today. I'm very excited about doing this episode. And we'll get to the as and whys in a bit. But first, we're going to jump straight in because we do have a hard out today. We're going to jump straight in because Tim missed out on the party last week where me and Rick were talking about Avowed. And you finally got to get your hands on it, Tim.
Yes, I had to miss last week's episode through illness, which got a little bit worse, and before it got better, and unfortunately, okay. The one thing was I had to cancel all my plans last weekend because I was so unwell. The only good thing about that was I got a bit more time with Avowed. But I was actually really disappointed to miss last week because I was really excited to speak to you guys about it, because I think I'm more keen on the game than you were, and I'm not saying that you were necessarily down on it, but I'm absolutely loving my time with Avowed. I was a bit perturbed going in that reviews were a little bit lukewarm on it, but I think I've liked it more than most people. Or the one thing I say is I can't remember, Coleman, did you play Baldur's Gate 3 when that was doing the rounds? Okay.
Yeah, I started playing it last year.
Yeah, and I don't know if my opinion of this game would be slightly tarnished had I played Baldur's Gate 3, but because I haven't, maybe this kind of is held in higher regard, and maybe I haven't burnt myself out playing a similar game in a similar-ish setting, and perhaps that does some things a bit better than this, and therefore this would pale in comparison a little bit more. But generally, I've always been a bigger fan of sci-fi games in general, sci-fi properties in general, than fantasy. Even when it comes to movies, aside from video games. And so I'm always a bit more excited. Like, I'm more excited for Mass Effect than I am for Dragon Age. And I was a bit more excited for Outer Worlds than I possibly would be for Avowed. But I have absolutely loved my time with Avowed. I think the combat's fantastic. I can see where some of the criticisms come in, and I'll come back to that in a second. But generally, I really like the humorous kind of setting. I think it looks graphically fantastic. I've been playing on the Xbox Series S, and I'm astounded at how good it looks. I think it's probably one of the better looking games I've seen run on the S, basically. And I think it did a lot of what Dragon Age... I was going to say Inquisition, but that's not the right one. I corrected you on it last week or week before. But
Dragon Age, oops, it's on PlayStation Plus.
Dragon Age, we've got it on PlayStation Plus very quickly because Dragon Age Purple. But yeah, I think that does a lot of what that was going for in terms of having a slightly more colorful world, having a slightly more light-hearted view on the world, and kind of going with a bit more humor. And I think it does that a lot better than Dragon Age Veilguard seems to have managed it. While also having a fair amount of purple and a bit of color in things as well. But yeah, I think fundamentally the thing that draws me back to the game and pulls me through the game, some of the story elements I like, and the overarching story I think is good, and I really like the character interaction and some of the humorous conversations between them. I like the companion characters. and I like how myself and the companion characters interact with the world and the overall kind of choices it makes you make. I haven't necessarily seen how much payoff there is to those choices. I'm about 35 hours in. I've completed the first 2 lands, and very rare for me, done all the side quests, all the treasure hunts, everything I could find to do, and then moved on to like the 3rd area where I'm continuing to do the same.
Right.
I think one of the only thing that lets it down is that there is, and this, for me to say this, there's got to be something, but there is too much talking in the game. like every character you come across wants to tell you their entire life history, and like getting to those camps at night where you're kind of settling down with your companions, and there's nothing worse than, oh God, all 3 of them want to talk to me.
See, that seems very Baldur's Gate 3 to me from what you said for that. I do actually have a question, Tim, based on what you've been saying about Avowed. Because you sort of said, oh, have you played Baldur's Gate? But did you play the Outer Worlds a few years back?
I did, and I really enjoyed the bit that I played of it, and then I kind of just put it down and never went back to it.
Same.
And
I was
think,
really enjoying it.
Yeah, and and again, I liked the humor of that game, and I liked the kind of characters in the world, but there was nothing that there wasn't I couldn't tell you what the overarching story in that game was, other than that, you were a kind of space age prospector going out and kind of discovering the universe sort of thing. I couldn't tell you anything about the story of that game or any reason I would have for going back to it. Whereas I can tell you who I am in Avowed and why I want to see the story through to the end to see where the story goes. And yeah, like as I said, story is one of the main things, but I really, really like the combat. I think the base level of the combat works really well. It's got a really nice kind of intuitive feedback to it. I don't know how well other classes will go. The one thing I'll say is I think that it could do with, and I think it was Skill Up that said that it could do with being a bit less stingy in how many ability points it gives out, because it wants you to be able to do various different things, and then doesn't allow you to have enough variety in what you can do to be able to switch to those things. So, like, if you choose to be, and you can completely respec your character, but you don't want to be constantly doing that on the fly. And if you go down the path of being like a fighter that does one-handed weapons, you can't even then really experiment with two-handed weapons very easily. So you end up sticking to, and I have switched from one weapon to another, like, and had experimented with a few weapons before that. But I've been using the same weapon for 10 hours, and I used the same weapon for 10 hours before that. And I think if there was a bit more leniency with how much you could level up your character, it would allow for you switching between things a little bit more. And I think that would be beneficial to the game. But even with that criticism, I think the combat's so good that I don't mind the slight lack of variety to it, because it's still fun every time I get into combat. And there are some RPGs where you're like, oh, another bloody combat scenario. I'm a bit bored of combat at the moment. But with this, I'm like, oh, come on, bring it on. Let's go. I really like the combat loop and the way it works. And the way I kind of spec my character is I'm a kind of fighter that can take on a lot of damage, and I reflect a lot of that damage on anyone that kind of messes with me. And then I've got a lot of stamina, even though I've got a lot of heavy armor and stuff to help soak up the damage as well. And yeah, it just means that I can wade into things and just start pummeling on people. And yeah, it's just fun every time, basically. And I like the kind of slowdown mechanic they've added to that, because that feels satisfying every time it comes out in combat as well.
Yeah. I think the way that Obsidian do like their RPG systems is always really interesting in terms of like, so New Vegas, Fallout New Vegas also has what you said in terms of like, you can get to the end of the game and you can only really max out like a few things, even if you do all the DLCs. And so it really forces you to think about how you want to play the game and like what kind of character you want to make, which also sort of really helps with the replayability. Because like Outer Worlds, I really, really love that game. And that also had like an element of when you figure out what you want to do, like you can really match your character in that way. But by the end, you could pretty much like have really dominant stats and everything. And then like I immediately played like Disco Elysium after, and that was like such a world of difference as well, because the way that does dialogue and everything. So yeah, like this game looks really interesting to me in terms of like, I love big RPGs like this. I think Obsidian have pretty much always done fantastic work. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad to hear that is actually like sticking, if that makes sense.
For example, and I think this is both a plus point and a slight negative, but there was one combat scenario I went into last night where I went on a, what do they call them? A bounty hunt type thing where I was going after a bounty. And it was a couple of levels above me. And I was about to go to bed. So I was like, right, let's see if I can actually mess with someone a couple of levels above me, because I found that difficult earlier on in the game. And I was getting a bit cocky with my combat. So I was like, let's see. So I admittedly took a few buffs going into the combat so that I was, tanked up and had a bit more might and a bit more kind of stamina and stuff to get through the fight. But then also, like, the two people that I was with are the two female companions, and they kind of buff you a bit more as well. So I was like, if I just go in and just completely tank, buff myself up and buff me up, will I be able to deal with this guy? And I absolutely hammered him. I didn't take any, like, there's one of those companions that's healing me, but I didn't take any healing potions in the whole combat and managed to get through the whole thing when he was 2 levels above me. And yeah, just completely stomped him basically. So like, I think that, yeah, I don't know if I'm kind of overpowered at the moment, kind of in combat, but it feels like I am a little bit. But I kind of like that after a bit of time of being slightly underpowered going through the game. But yeah, as I said, it kind of swings and roundabouts. But combat's so satisfying that I don't mind that at all. So yeah, I'm really enjoying my time with the game and have really got stuck into it, and I'm going to see it through to the end as well at some point. So yeah, really enjoying it.
There is the similar thing as the kind of Skyrim or Elder Scrolls before it going on, kind of thing where you've got this they give you this big, vast open world for you to go and explore, and you're taken aback by it. You start doing all the side stuff. You go off on your own little quests and hunt and do things, and instead of just kind of going straight through the storyline. Then when you go back to the storyline, you're like, I am a golden god. I can beat everyone.
But one thing in this game more than I found in other games of its ilk is that I really like just going for a wander and discovering stuff. Like I will actually deliberately go, okay, it's really far to the main objective, but I'm going to walk all the way there and go through this area and I like the way they map it out. Like the way they map it out is basically it's kind of grayed out where you haven't been on the map. And then it kind of colors it in where you have. So you know exactly where you have and haven't been. So I'm like, okay, I haven't been to that section of the map. So I'm just going to walk through all of that, wander around, find everything there, find all the treasure and all the kind of bits of the totem and stuff that I haven't collected. And just kind of, and it's got a real kind of sense of, oh, I wonder if I can go down there. And oh, is there something in that cave? And it's always really good, I think, at rewarding you for going off the path and wandering down somewhere and just wandering into an area that you don't know what's going to be there, and I've been pleasantly surprised almost every time I've done it in this game as well. So yeah, I've really enjoyed the world and the combat, and when they're not talking too much, the characters.
I mean, it does sound fantastic.
Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna. No, you go. Come on, sorry.
No, go on.
Oh no, I was just saying it sounds fantastic, and I'm really glad you've been having a good time with it. Like, just double check, this is Xbox, PC, and PC Game Pass, or is it on anything else?
It's on, Game Pass in general. And yeah, that's my only other comment on it, the fact that Game Pass has been so good in the past few months that I literally haven't touched my PS5 for a few months almost. Like, I was playing indie before this. There was some good little gems in between that. There's some other stuff that came out this week that I think is really good. And yeah, like my PlayStation 5 is currently gathering a bit of dust, unfortunately. So yeah,
it's a similar kind of thing to the Xbox One, where Xbox One was kind of laughed at a bit on the launch, and we didn't really get much out of it. And then towards the second half of the Xbox One, then we started getting decent games, and Game Pass was introduced and everything. It was a little bit like that with Xbox Series X and S, because they launched it, we got a few games, but mostly everything was like cross-generation anyway. It was all Game Pass. Then we had a year of no exclusives at all for Xbox. Everything was on PlayStation, and now we're Halo releases in a very weird state, and they kind of patch it along the way and add more elements along the way, and it never quite got to that height that it needed. And now we're at the point where there's so many games coming out this 1 year for Xbox, and they're not all are exclusive, but you're getting a lot that are on Game Pass, and we're going to get onto that more in a moment. So we're in a kind of renaissance at the moment. And it's really funny because there's loads of games coming for Xbox. There's loads of games coming for PlayStation. I'm very excited about all of them. And then we've got this random element of there's a Nintendo Switch 2 on the horizon. So who knows what that's bringing us as well. Busy year. It's a very expensive year, but it's exciting.
Yeah. But Game Pass is making it a slightly less expensive year for me, which is good. But as you mentioned as well, Common, Veilguard is coming to PlayStation Plus, and PlayStation Plus has got a big month. They're really coming out swinging this month after a few disappointing months in the run up to it. But it just seems like, I don't know, like just so second class at the moment. Like you are getting an inferior product, both in terms of Veilguard and PlayStation Plus compared to Game Pass at the moment, when Avowed is a much newer, much more interesting, better game that was always planned to come to Game Pass rather than, someone's second handoffs that have just ended up on PlayStation Plus. And I don't know, that seems to speak volumes about the two services at the moment to me as well. But
all right, well, Tim, when you move on to your next titles, I've already got one for you. Actually, I've got a gift. Yes. Coleman knows about this, so I'm not interrupting too much. So we were doing a clear out of all of our game stock yesterday, like all the really old stuff. Right. And I found you a copy of Omicron the Nomad Soul, the first David Cage video game.
Oh, nice.
So next time I see you, this is coming to you. You can play the first Fever Dream. Apparently it has an original soundtrack by David Bowie, who's also in the game. There's an epic adventure storyline with unprecedented depth and realism. And 220 minutes of dialogue. So almost as much as Avowed. So
I think I'm correct in saying it may be the only David Cage game I've never played anything of. So I'll be interested.
Yeah.
What was it on though? Is it on PC?
Yeah, it's PC.
That doesn't work for me, yeah?
It's a gift, Tim. You can work out the rest of it.
Thank
and
you.
then for Coleman, I've managed to find
in the mouth.
What's that? Coleman, I've managed to find a copy of Daikatana.
Ooh.
The game that put John Romero's career on a very different path to the one it was going to be on at one point. So, and then just for myself, I've got Neon Genesis because I've never seen that before. So if it's good, someone let me know. I'm going to watch that at some point. Chris, are you back? Are you?
Yarr!
Pirate
Are
Chris
you
has
ready,
taken
kids?
over. He's been boarded.
Avast, ye landlubbers! It's time for me and first mate, shipmate Ed to be talking about our game that we done played this week. Ha-ha! That's right. We'll be talking about Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Or as I like to call it, YAARkuza. I don't have a
Or as I've been calling it all week, Pirates in an Adventure with Yakuza. If anyone remembers that old film.
Yar. Sorry, for the audio listeners, I want to apologise for your eardrums too. I'm wearing an eye patch and a hat. And thank you for the hat, Tim. And the eye patch is the elastic keeps going into my other eye. And it's not.
Oh, no.
Anyway, I'll do as best I can.
Fun fact for you, Chris, I accidentally stabbed myself in the eye while I was doing work earlier. And so I very nearly came on here with an eye patch as well for actual medicinal purposes. It was just going to be whoops.
I did get a spare one, but I never sent it out to you.
Oh, Chris. We could have
The other thing as well, I have studio headphones that I wear when we're recording, and I couldn't wear the hat with them. So secretly, I've had earbuds in this entire time that I had the headphones over to hide.
That's a level of subterfuge.
Yarr.
That's
devious
a level
is
of
Captain
subterfuge. He's almost as devious as those pesky pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which he's about to tell you about now.
Let me set the music off. All right, there.
Yes, please. It's very distracting.
I've brought Ed onto the show to discuss Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, because although I've been playing this, Ed is our resident Yakuza / Like a Dragon fanboy / expert. And I just sort of, I've played Ishin, I have played this one, and I have played a lot of Zero. And that is where my passion kind of falls down for Yakuza and Like a Dragon. So I need the expertise of Ed. So if you'd like to explain the because you know the character names and things, you're like proper hardcore. If you could explain the premise of this game for us, Ed.
All right, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, oh, that's not that autistic, and 1 being, oh my god, he's being very autistic. How autistic am I allowed to be about Yakuza right now?
12.
As autistic as you fancy.
All right, because I'm literally wearing a Like a Dragon t-shirt for Infinite Wealth that I got from TGS. That's my obnoxious E3 bell for the
He's
for the
got
episode.
his Like a Dragon booty.
Yarr. So, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is the chronologically latest game in the Yakuza series, so it is in many ways a direct sequel to Infinite Wealth. All of the story takes place immediately 6 months after the events of that. It stars Goro Majima, a character who, for a lot of the series, was considered like the antagonist or like sort of like friends with Kazuma Kiryu, who was the main character of the series until 7. So I'm just trying to think what else. So the story begins, Goro Majima has washed up on an island in Hawaii, as you can see from the footage here if you're watching, and he has no memory of who he is. So it's the first amnesia story for a main character in the Yakuza series, not necessarily the first amnesia story in Yakuza. And basically, it turns out that you find out very early on in the game that due to the events of Infinite Wealth, Majima was on an island clearing up some radioactive waste, and on the way back, his ship was attacked and destroyed by a giant squid, which is why he has no memory. And basically, he ends up becoming
that to you.
Yeah, and basically, he ends up becoming a pirate because it seems like a very fun thing to do, and then goes to Hawaii to end up in more shenanigans. And essentially, this is a way to sort of like potentially send off Majima because his character is 60 at this point. So Yakuza 0 featured him in like, you know, his 20s. He was also playable in Yakuza 2, Yakuza Kiwami 2, rather, Dead Souls, which is the only Yakuza game I have not played at this point. And I'm trying to think what else he's been in. Oh, and yeah, it's just those. But also, if you've played Yakuza 4, there's also some very important backstory as to how he lost his eye. So if you want to know why Majima only has one eye, you have to play Yakuza 4, which has one of the most interesting plot twists in the series. And if you want to know why Majima is actually not just the wacky guy who goes around going, Kiryu-chan, all the time and appearing from manholes, so you should play Yakuza 0, which is the best one. So did I do a good enough job explaining, Coleman, or should I go more into the intricacies? You did a very good job,
Ed. You should give yourself a pat on the back.
No. I forgot to mention his Kyodai, Saejima, who in Yakuza 5 fist fights a giant bear. That's probably the highlight of Yakuza 5, apart from when you play as Kazuma Kiryu's surrogate daughter as she enters a J-pop career. So there's like a whole 10 hours of Yakuza 5 where you are literally just doing dance battles in the street with people, and it is great. It's also weirdly the darkest part of that game because like her manager is just basically going, here's exactly why being a J-pop star is terrible in Japan. You have to have abortions and everyone stalks you. And also you're beaten up by your managers backstage. Now learn this dance or else. And so, okay, that's my info dump.
You can see why I've not been able to follow along with the series thus far. But
you just play them in chronological order. Play 0,
I'm
1,
trying.
2, 3, 4,
I'll go back
5,
to 0 after this one.
Judgment, 6, 7, then Lost Judgment. Then Infinite Wealth, and then this. And you can play Ishin whenever, because Ishin takes place like in the 1800s, and it's based on a historical event that actually happened in Japan, but they just replace everyone with Yakuza characters.
Okay, I have a question based on what you just said there, though. Can you just play this one?
You can, but if you then wanted to go back and play the other ones, it would pretty much spoil everything, I think.
Also, before Coleman takes over and fills in some more details on his opinion of the game, I'd just like to say that washing up on a beach is fast becoming the new wakes up in prison with amnesia. Like, that seems to be the new intro to games in a lot of places.
Oh yeah, they just did that in Avowed, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry, Tim, to answer your question, you can play this one, but the thing that these Yakuza games tend to do lately is they will just sort of casually spoil the entire previous game. So Infinite Wealth, like the first 4 hours is just, here's everything that happened in 7. At the beginning of Lost Judgment, it's like, here's everything that happened at the beginning of 7. The Man Who Erased His Name spoils all of 6 and 7. So they do sort of presume that you've played them, but you can jump in, essentially.
Right. Okay.
You could just play 0 and then jump into this anyway. So
if like me, you've got a brain like a leaky sieve and you can play sequels and then go, actually, I want to play the first game, and then you've forgotten all the plot elements that were explained in the previous game, you're fine.
Yeah. Fine.
And that's what I had with this one so far. But I thought this was going to be like Ishin, where it like Ed said, it's a samurai game story that's completely separate from all of Yakuza and Like a Dragon, but they've taken all the popular characters from that franchise and then stuck them in Ishin. I thought that's what we were getting here, because I hadn't looked that deep into it. And I went, I could do that. I like pirates. Let's see how that goes. Obviously, let's see how that goes. And jumped into this and was very confused when the game opens and it says 2015. I went, what? How does that work? and it just turns out in Hawaii, there's this weird subculture of modern day pirates, but not like Somalian pirates with machine guns and things. They're like actual yo ho ho bottle of grog kind of pirates, but they have mobile phones and Bluetooth.
Not just like a
things,
pirate,
so.
you're living in one, Coleman.
Aye.
I mean, it's quite interesting that Chris brings up Ishin, though, because there's like elements of the gameplay that are quite Ishin based in terms of when you like sail to a random island to find treasure. So like very early in the game, like one of the plot lines is essentially that you're given a big map with loads of treasure. You go around, find treasure, you use that money to level yourself up like you do in Yakuza 0. But the islands that you go to, you get like basically like little corridor dungeons where you like run along, kill some enemies, run along, beat up some enemies, open a treasure chest. And that's very much like what elements of Ishin were, where if you wanted to like level up your character or get crafting stuff, you'd basically go into like caves and stuff and do like semi-randomized dungeons. So in some elements, it is quite similar, but as Chris has mentioned as well, like I think they haven't quite sort of made it clear that this is one where you need maybe some previous knowledge, where Ishin you could just sort of jump in whenever.
Which in terms of sales is probably a good idea.
Oh yeah, no, apparently this is their second most successful launch ever. So
yeah, I mean, it is really good. And because we were talking about this off mic before, Ed, and these games are very addictive in their side quests and the little things that you can do. And we found that there was a period where Ed was talking about spending 40 minutes on cooking mini games, whereas I was spending 40 minutes on, I found a master system and now I'm playing Alex Kidd in Miracle World. And I completed that game before I went back to this game. And that's very early on in the game as well. So I wasted a fair bit of time doing that. But also we were talking about, because you said, Ed, that this is, the engine is recycled from the same one they were using on the PS3. And I actually don't hate that, because the way it runs is so smooth and so slick, speedy and just no stutter whatsoever. And it's probably because they've gone, we don't need to like drain all the power. And it does give that kind of Uncanny Valley effect where you've got these amazing graphics that are kind of stretched over a lifeless doll in some characters, but it works for the elements, because a lot of this is hack and slash type stuff, especially when it comes to the island things that you were talking about, Ed, because I love that as well. You go treasure hunting, you get on an island, and then all of a sudden this counter appears and it goes, you've got to beat 100 enemies. Like, what? We've turned into a Mushu game. Brilliant. I'm in. I'm having a lot of fun
From
with
the
this game.
screenshots of gameplay you showed before, there does seem to be, well, not screenshots, the gameplay you showed before, there does seem to be like quite a lot more crowds than I'm used to seeing in a Yakuza game. Is that a particular feature of this game?
Yeah, that's definitely something that they've sort of worked on. So rewind a tiny bit what Coleman was saying about like the engines and stuff. It's like a common thing in like sports games like WWE football, where like to do it like yearly, they just sort of rebuild stuff or use previous assets. And the Like a Dragon series is like very notorious for that. Like there's animations the characters will do that are in like the original PlayStation 2, like of the first Yakuza sort of thing. And like Yakuza 0 like launched on PlayStation 3, and there's animations and like character models and stuff like that that are still just like one-to-one from that, which is how they managed to make like a massive like 30 to 40 or like 100-hour game a year. Is a lot of recycling. Not in like a negative way, because it's always fun to see the characters come back and stuff like that. But the other thing it does as well is it allows you to sort of go, well, we know this engine, we know what we can do with it, and we can just push it a bit more now. We can push it a bit more now. And they always find ways to sort of add it. So this one is, as you said, like it's a lot more like crowded battles in terms of, you know, number of enemies. And they've also adapted the fighting styles for that as well. So like you get the mad like Dog of Shinjima style of like the standard attacks for Majima, but you also get like a new Sea Dog one where you get to throw cutlasses and they act like boomerangs, and it's all about spacing and areas, and you get like one of those old flintlock guns and you can slowly aim and charge it and shoot someone in the distance. So like they've really thought about how to adapt it in while also creating these like greater crowds of enemies, and making that the challenge is like, you know, the level of enemies you have to fight, the number of them, the tactics they use and things like that, rather than a strict like, just fight this man, he's very tough. Although there is also a lot of that. So
there are those elements, yeah.
It's a Yakuza game. Like every plot point is, this man doesn't trust you, you must beat him up. You've beaten him up, and now he trusts you. Like, this man thinks that you're drunk. He's going to fight you. He's giving you a stamina spark. You've stabbed him in the throat. Like, and now he's completely fine, but he's going to join you on your adventure. Like, it's a very standard trope in the games.
There's also this there's this element of a similar sort of thing to the older Saints Row games, where, you know, between 2 and 3, they've kind of gone, look how mad we are, but without pointing at it and going, look how mad this is, which I really like. And it comes down to the fighting animations. You tend to get a lot of moments where it will be like, quick, hit this button in combat, and an animation will play. And it starts off something simple, like you jump up and kind of sort of hurricanrana a guy and then use your legs to attack other people around you. But then it turns into, you attack one person and throw him in the air, and then a shark jumps out the ground from nowhere and then eats him, and then there's a pirate ship going off in the background, but you're on dry land and you have no idea how that would logically work, but you're not drawing attention to it, so it's really cool. Yeah. It's more like a mad music video than it is like a, woo, look how crazy this video game is. And speaking of, there is singing modes as well, which we love in the Yakuza Like a Dragon games.
Yes, and if we get another episode one day, we'll rank all of the karaoke songs by how much I like them and how much I've memorized them. Because I haven't. I was literally listening to them while working today. I was just like going through like the Goro Majima songs, like 24 Hour Cinderella, like Pride from Despair, If You're Happy, I'm Happy. All of them. I've listened to them all today. I will do a quiz. It's fine.
I feel like from discussions we've got a good sense of the background and kind of the content of the game. I don't have a good sense of how much you are enjoying this game, and especially in comparison to other Yakuza games. Is it the best Yakuza game so far? Is it a fun offshoot? Like, how does it rank amongst those and in general?
It's
first of all, nothing will beat 0, so write that down.
I've only played 3.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, I always think 0 is the best one. I've often said if they just remake 0 with some quality of life like autosave, I will probably just take 2 weeks off to play it through again. But this is really fun so far. Like, I think Coleman and I played it a bit differently in terms of he's done a lot more of the main story. The thing that I tend to do is, as soon as you have like free reign to explore, I will go and do all of the side quests and all of the side stuff you can until the game goes, no, you got to do more main story. So, and one thing I have noticed as well is like a fair few of the sub-stories in this do directly follow on from like Infinite Wealth ones, where you'll see like characters from the previous game and they'll be like, oh, well, I had some problems 6 months ago, but a kindly man with frizzy hair helped me out, sort of thing. And it's all like, oh, Ichiban sort of helped you out 6 months ago, and now it's like the sequel to the story. So that's also like another aspect to this, but in terms of the gameplay, I think this is like one of the best combat systems they've done in a long, not in a long while. Because the way they've done it now is like 7 and 8 are turn based, and then like all the spin-offs and like Judgment are action based because they were all like originally based on like the Virtua Fighter engine, and like Majima's always very fun to control. He was incredibly fun to control in Zero and Tsukiwami, and what they've done here is they've sort of like played up like the fact that he's like quite menacing and he's quite like not like madcap and wacky, but he's quite chaotic in the way he fights. And that's really been exemplified in the way they do the combat system. And because they've added like aerial juggles now, so like there are moves you can do to like air juggle enemies, you can jump in the air and like shoot them and stuff like that. So there's like a new dimension to the combat that hasn't been there before. And that's really opened things up as well.
And final question before I sort of throw it open to any summing up you want to do, but does this mean, I'm guessing this is a yes from your answers so far, but does this mean that we have yet another pirate game that is better than Skull and Bones?
I haven't played Skull and Bones.
I have.
No one's afraid Skull
It's
and Bones,
Bobbins.
apart from Coleman, because he loves pirates.
Right.
It's very boring.
I'll defer to Chris on this.
But still weirdly supported.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also playing another technical pirate game at the moment. I'm playing Mario and Luigi Brothership, which involves a lot of sailing as well. So I'm getting quite a lot of...
Not really.
I think
not a real pirate.
And I'm important.
If Captain Coleman says it's not a pirate game, it's not a pirate game. That's how I qualify.
No, that is true.
Okay?
I will defer to
I'm
the
the
captain on
expert.
this. All right, I'll refer to my Senjo on this
You're
one.
our Japanese game expert, Ed, but Coleman is our pirate game expert.
Yeah, that's fair.
He sailed all
It is
round
fun, though.
Pirate Bay.
If you want a game that you can sink a lot of time into and team up online and be pirates together, then you want to play a Sea of Thieves. If you want the fun, super quick action pirate game, you want Yakuza. Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, which is available now on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One for the low price of $54.99. Not a bad price.
And it's worth it at double that.
Well,
I'm
you
not
can
actually
pay more if
represented
you
by
want the
Sega. I do
larger
not
editions.
reflect their views. Right.
Right, that's enough pirates because I'm losing my equilibrium from wearing an eye patch.
Wait. Did you get the collector's edition with the eye patch?
No, I just bought that. That's my eye patch.
All right, okay, because there was a collector's edition that came with an eye patch. Wait.
I'm struggling to see properly now. So this is going to be fun with the agenda. I might have to put the eye patch on.
How do you think Goro Majima feels?
Yes, but he's missing an eye. It's different.
Yes.
I'm just staring
and if
into
you found out
darkness.
how he lost his eye, it's quite tragic. You should play Yakuza 4.
They do allude to the eye loss in this game, so there you go. Right, we have to get on because we've got a lot of news to get through, and it's and I've trimmed out as much fat as I absolutely could this week, so we've still got a fair bit to get through. And I am I'm aware of your time, Tim. So I'm gonna try and hurry up on this. But first of all, today as we're recording is Pokemon Day, and I didn't get you anything. But
I got
Game
you
Freak
something.
did get us something, or Team Pokemon, or whatever we're calling them these days. They put out a Pokemon presentation, which went through lots of things like TV shows and mobile games and things that we don't really care about, but we do care about. The mainline Pokemon game that has just been announced. Well, sorry, not just been announced. It was announced last year, but shown off properly now. Pokemon Legends Z2A, which is coming out in late 2025.
They're doing the alphabet wrong, just so you know.
They are. But this is meant to be following on from the Legends Arceus game, which kind of saw them turn the game, the Pokemon as we know it, out on its head. It made it an open world area. It gave you new types of, like, it's the first game in the canonical series now, and it predates a lot of the things you'd know about Pokemon and kind of retro Pokeballs, and you go out into these empty worlds and you kind of do Monster Hunter, but with Pokemon. But on a much smaller scale because it's Pokemon, and it ran like arse because it was on a Nintendo Switch, and you know, as we go on and the titles came out further, like Violet and Ruby also ran complete bobbins. It was terrible. But this one seems to be taking a combination of the two, where it's gone more the way of Violet and is it
like
Violet?
Violent?
I think it is. Violet and Scarlet.
Violet.
Sorry, yeah, Scarlet and Violet instead of Arceus, where it's still the Arceus series, but it's now you have, instead of the open world, it's wild areas that you go to, which are these small little open areas, which they've done in the last two mainline Pokemon games. You have mega evolutions, all that kind of stuff. This one, it's set in Luminous City, which I think has appeared in the DS games before, or the 3DS
Yeah, it's
games
Pokemon X and
before.
Y.
Thank you. So that's DS, isn't it? And
The 3DS. It was the first 3DS ones,
3DS.
and it's set in Paris. Well, it's essentially what
That's
their
right.
version of Paris is.
I think that's the one I played.
Luminous
All right.
City.
Can't
So
remember.
your Pokemon starters, once again, are Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile, which I think was my starter in that game.
It's interesting they've gone with two from Gold and Silver and then one from Ruby and Sapphire. No, Tepig isn't from then. I don't know which one Tepig's from.
Tepig was from the Hawaii? No, that was the cat, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Can't
that
remember.
was Litten in that one.
If
That
it's
was
outside of the
Litten, Rowlet,
original
and Popplio.
151, I always get confused. But yes, looks good. It looks like, if we are to believe the game footage, it looks like it plays a lot better than the last game, but we'll see when the game launches. We have to assume that this is a Switch 2 game as well as a Switch game.
Yeah, I would assume it's cross-gen because they'd be silly not to, no, really, with all these Switches.
Well, if this
out
is
there.
coming out late 2025 and we can assume
There's
that
still
the
like 10
Switch will be out
billion
before
Switches in
or
the
around
world,
then.
so yeah.
We'll see.
They've got an install base of 130 million people. That's not to be sniffed at for a property like this.
Yeah, but like I'm a user of the Nintendo Switch, and for the last year and a half, it's been sat on charge under my TV, and I have yet to pick it up. So
That one too.
am I really to be counted as one of those installer bases? And I know a lot of people like that
Yes.
bought one, really got into it, put it away, and never touched it again. And it's probably still in rest mode rather than powered off,
Yeah.
supping away the energy from your bill. I should probably power mine.
I mean, mine's being used to play Brothership at the moment, so I'm not part of this.
That's because you're a fake pirate, unlike Captain Coleman.
Yeah.
Anyway, Pokemon, let us know what you think. Pokemon Legends Z2A. The other big news we had this week is the IGN's little game festival thing. Xbox took part of that with the ID at Xbox showcase for February 2025. And they went through a fair few games. A lot of them are coming to Game Pass for launch or are being added to Game Pass, like Balatro, and loads of games. I put down to highlight the ones you talk about. I assume we're not talking about more than the ones that I did.
I didn't see that till just now. The only one I really want
Well
to mention though was Tron Catalyst, I think. Just
Why is
because
that?
That's because it's been made by a friend of the show, Mike Bithell. But also Tron, and him doing an interesting thing with the Tron universe is something I am interested in. I'm intrigued by the trailer and the footage that they showed as well. I don't know how that's going to work in terms of combat or exactly what's going on with the game, but I'm definitely intrigued enough to check it out. So I like Tron and I like Mike Bithell, and it's a good combination. So I will be keen to see how that goes.
He is a lovely chap.
For those taking part in the BRB drinking game that we announced 2 weeks ago, I just had to finish my drink.
Also, worth shouting out Balatro if you've not played it. I actually managed to get my dad into Balatro. That's probably my best achievement of the last 5 years, including work achievements and life achievements, is I convinced my dad to play Balatro, and now he keeps sending me all of his runs that fail, and I'm like, you're nearly there, Dad. You just got to use those jokers more effectively.
You got it, Dad.
Remember, you've got to order the jokers. You can move the order of the jokers around. That's very important. So the fun thing about Balatro, for anyone who's not played Balatro, is for the first week,
Yeah, when I spoke about it when it first came out, it comes with a warning, a health warning. Like, you can overplay Balatro. You can get overly addicted.
Yeah.
I would say, though, it's slightly better suited to being on a mobile platform, just so you can feed that addiction wherever you may be, basically. But other than that,
Yeah.
it's a good addition to Game Pass, and if you haven't tried it, definitely check it out.
Yeah, the thing I tell everyone about Balatro is for the first week you play Balatro, you will become like the most annoying person on the planet. Because all you will do is talk to people about Balatro and like how you're doing in Balatro. I was literally playing it over Christmas and I was like seeing friends I haven't seen in like months and I was glad to see them. And at one point I just said out loud, I could be playing Balatro right now. And like, I love my friends, but also I could have been playing, it was true. I could have been playing Balatro. That's what it does to you for like 2 weeks. Like, it's incredible.
I have yet to play Balatro. It just doesn't appeal to me at all. But everyone around me is like, have you played Balatro? It's great. Even play guys I know that don't play a lot of games. They're like, you tried this game Balatro? It's really good. You can get it on your phone.
Chris, have you tried Balatro?
No, I've not heard of it. Why don't you tell me about how good Balatro is?
Really good. You should play it.
Well, I'll tell you what's really good is Patapon, but they're not making any more of those.
No.
So instead, let's talk about, I've just realized that I don't have a video for it. Let's talk about Ratatan, which is the spiritual successor for Patapon, and it's coming out some point this year. But this, if you've not played Patapon, one of the two big rhythm games for the PlayStation Portable, PSP, first being Loco Roco, which amazing soundtrack, and then Patapon was building on that, but instead of just amazing music and the cool graphics and stuff, you kind of played everyone in silhouette, and you had these little tribes characters, and the types of movements that you wanted them to make, be that attack, guard, move forward, or stay. I can't remember what the other one was. But you say you have to hit the buttons in a particular combination, and when then you hit, and you have to do it on the beat. And each time you do it, they repeat what you do. So you've got drums and like tambourine type things. So you're hitting buttons in combination to go pata, 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 pon. And that means move forward. And then when you do it, the little tribes people do it as well. And you go pon, pon, pata, pon. And then they stop. And, that kind of thing. It's really cool. We're getting another game similar to that. But it's called Ratatan. And I'm really looking forward to grabbing that on a big TV rather than on PSP.
A straight new Patapon where they've literally just replaced the word Patapon with Ratatan.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Ratatan.
Yeah.
But in colour and on a TV, Tim, which is all I ever wanted.
Okay. You're happy.
Yeah.
I did think of you when I saw this, so.
Yeah, I thought of me when I saw it too. Another one that I don't have a video for, sadly, but another one that I am very excited for because it's a very Coleman-looking, Coleman-type game, and that
probably
is
means
Outbound.
it'll be delayed, yeah?
Yeah, it'll probably be delayed. Only if I put this as my ones to watch for next year. But Outbound, it basically looks like House Flipper. If you take a camper van that you're living in, go out in the middle of nowhere, and then build up the caravan to make extensions and keep on going until you turn it into a full-blown house.
I can't believe that's one of the games you wanted to talk about when literally they showed the trailer. I was like, okay, it looks very nice, but this is definitely not for me. And like literally stop paying any attention to it whatsoever. Like forgetting that you would actually care.
Mate, I've spent the week playing a video game about digging a hole. Like, I like calming games, More on that next week.
Okay.
And the other one, that's coming out some point next year. So I'm sure I'll forget all about it. And then it will appear on another one of these kind of live streams. And I go, I forgot about that. Which also, sorry to sidetrack because I know the time's tight today, but I was trying to remember this. There was a game, and I think it was at a PlayStation State of Play, that was shown off, and it was about an old man who had lived his life with adventures and was telling stories about his adventures. And then when he's telling the stories, you're playing the adventures. And I've looked it up, and it's not called Old Man, The Adventures of the Old Man, or whatever it was, because that's
a terrible title for a video game, Coleman.
No,
that's why it's not called that.
It was apparently that's a good game. It was a game that like me, you, and Dan all raved about, like how good it looked, and then spoke about it. I think on 2 different shows. So I'm gonna have to go through the old shows to find it. And then it got delayed because there was like tribes people in there, and they had kind of masks that had scary faces on it. And because the lips were too red and they had kind of big puffy black wigs coming out of them and little white pipes that they were firing darts, people thought it was like a racial stereotype. So they had to delay the game to move that out there. And I was like, what the hell was that game?
The delay thing sounds slightly familiar. Everything else sounds like a weird fever dream, like you've been having after eating too much cheese
If I can find
before
it,
bedtime. As Dan
I'm going
would
to try
say.
find this before next. Right,
You're going to have to,
find this before
because
next week.
otherwise, I think you've just been like making it up. Really, quite.
Well, I was
frankly,
going to say,
Coleman.
until the tribal masks thing, I thought you were talking about Call of Juarez Gunslinger. Like,
no, I know Juarez Gunslinger. Very different.
yeah,
And
that is also very.
but
good,
it was some.
yeah.
It was just. It was something like this that I was going, oh, there's something I'm really excited to play. Wait a minute, what about that game I was really excited to play? Did it ever come out? And then I was looking it up and I couldn't find what the game was or if it ever came out. And I was like doing different Googles and it was getting questionable. I was like, cancellation blackface video game. I was like, that's not helping. I should get off the work Wi-Fi.
Soul Mask?
Who knows? Who knows, Tim? I'll
I
have
just
to
tried
look for
googling
that.
it for you.
I thought I'd say it out loud because, like, while I'm looking for this, someone might hear my insane rambles about this video game that may or may not have come out and could let me know. That would be great because I've been going nuts about this for about 5 hours now. But yeah, that's been fresh in my mind.
If you know
Another
the
thing
game that Coleman's talking about, please phone 0800 Coleman. That's 0800 Coleman.
Being old, it could happen to you. Hotel Barcelona is a game that I was very excited by. One, because Suda51.
And
two,
Swery.
yeah, it's coming out this year.
Swery 55.
Swery 55 and
Both.
Suda51.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just said that. And also, look at the colors. Oh my God. I love insane art styles. I know, but this looks brilliant. Kind of the side scrolling, very colorful, pixel art, everything thrown in, bonkers looking mad. I want this in my face. Please, can I have this now?
As someone who finally played No More Heroes 3 recently,
That's not how
like,
releases work.
I need more Suda in my life. Like, also, if you're not playing No More Heroes 3, there is literally a button where when you're on the motorcycle, you can do the Akira slide. You just press the button and it just does the Akira slide every time. Like,
but yes, this looks fantastic and bonkers, and I really dig the art style. But yeah, it's that thing. Like sometimes it's pixelated, sometimes it's polygonal, and that's just the mad thinking of those two guys that I really like. So yeah, I wanted to draw attention to Buckshot Roulette. It's not new. This came out last year. It's been very famous online. A lot of YouTubers playing this game and influencers playing this game. But this is a game that I think you'd like, Tim. And I don't think you should wait for it to come to Game Pass. No? I think you should just put down the £3 or £4 and play it on your Steam Deck. But this is a game where you are at a table playing this weird kind of card roulette game against this mysterious figure. And if you beat them, you get to shoot them with a shotgun. And if they beat you, they get to shoot you with a shotgun. And the idea is to win by killing them. We have a review up on BigRedBarrel.com by Nitwit. He gave this a 9 out of 10. He thought this was fantastic. So this I've been meaning to get a hold of this, but I'm never really into the like card games or tabletop gamble games or anything like that at all. But I really should give this a go. If this is on Steam, if this is playable on a Steam Deck, I think you should jump into this because this looks like more of a Tim game than a Coleman game.
Yes, it reminds me aesthetically. It reminds me of Inscription as well, which is no bad thing for a feather in its cap as well. But yeah, I've been intrigued about this since Nitwit's review, and I probably will work to Game Pass at the moment, to be honest. But if it's really good, I might double dip and end up picking it up on.
It's going to gift you one. You can do that on Steam.
That's fine.
Yeah. I accidentally thought of a very dark joke when you were talking about Buckshot Roulette then, because you were saying to Tim, I don't think you should wait. And I was like, Tim should get a shotgun now? I love you, Tim. I don't mean it, but that's where my brain went. I thought that's what he was setting up for.
It's about
Tim,
time someone put me
get a
out of my
gun.
misery, quite frankly, Ed. I'm getting a bit old. So,
We're putting you out to
Get a gun,
pasture.
Tim.
Tell us
Tim.
about the menus, Tim.
Just remember the first rule of gun safety, Tim.
yeah.
Have fun. Were there any other games that anyone wanted to give mention to before we move on?
There were a fair few things that I was like, oh, okay, that looks okay, but nothing that I was like, oh my god, I need to like. I liked the previous. I think it was Return to the Savage Planet was the first one, and this is Revenge of the Savage Planet, which they seem to be going more co-op with. And I liked some of the things they were doing with weapons, but I'm not sure I can find anyone to play this co-op with unless you're particularly bothered about it, Mr. Coleman.
Well, it's launching on Game Pass, so yeah, might as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you're up for it, I really liked the last one, and yeah, this seems to be good humored, and it seems to be all about kind of teaming up to do crazy combos with the two weapons that you've got in hand as well. So I kind of like the look of that. That intrigues me. 33 Immortals does look good, but again, I'm not sure I'll find enough people to play it online with to make that worthwhile. And I did like Lies of P Overture,
You have
and I'm
two
glad it's getting
people
DLC
with
for
Game
people,
Pass.
but yeah. Again, yeah.
You do a show with two other people, Tim.
How often do
We're
we
all
play
Game
online with
Pass
each other?
subscribers. That's because we never play the same game. Dan
Well,
plays
yeah,
Destiny,
true.
you play some old rubbish, and I play everything else.
I'm surprised
Usually
you
what
didn't
happens.
care about Rock Beast as well, Coleman. It's got music, it's got
No.
crazy art style. No?
Yeah, but isn't it like a graphic novel type
Yeah,
thing?
it's more
just
graphic
not.
novel.
It's not my type
So,
of thing.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
No. The only thing that I kind of was interested in was Descenders Next, but I didn't really get into Descenders, so I don't know
Yeah.
how much of an improvement they can make to make me jump back into that.
It's got snowboarding, so I might be interested. It's possible.
Hmm.
Especially if it's on Game Pass.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could do 2 different snowboarding games this year on the podcast. Just to, we go years without talking about a single snowboarding game, and then 2 come along at once. That'd be great.
They're like buses.
All right. Exactly. Or plumbers.
Although if 2 plumbers come
Bad
at once to your house, you
reference
should
to
be
Rick Mel.
concerned.
Yes.
All right, shall we move on? Because we've got a couple of headlines left, and these should be pretty fairly quick to get to, because the first one is, of course,
Curse of Coleman strikes again. I think I even predicted it for this one. But yeah.
I can't believe it. And I said it when we were doing the flipping ones we want to, the ones to watch. I went, this is the one I'm taking a gamble on, but Fable. I need to play Fable. And I was so excited for it. But by news of the official Xbox podcast, Fable has been delayed till 2026. They also did show off some gameplay, which I've cut out of the podcast and we're showing on our podcast because I'm a teeth. I mean, it looks great. It'll be great when I get to play it next year, hopefully. Some are speculating that this isn't we need to polish the game for a further year, and this could be we need to get the hell away from GTA 6, which is plausible.
They showed
We'll
footage of them kicking a chicken, though. I'm in, Coleman.
That's
in.
how they
I
ended
was
the
in anyway.
podcast.
It looks great. It looks really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was never coming
I'm
out
really
this
looking
year. You're
forward to it.
A fool, Coleman.
It's very intriguing where they've gone, okay, so we've got no Lionsgate. We're not trying to like resurrect Lionsgate. We're not doing a Telltale Games type thing. We've given this to a new studio, but we give it to a studio that have been at first a support studio for Forza and then just like done the spin-offs of Forza, the Forza Horizon. I don't like Playground Games doing a beloved video game from my childhood is something that is very, very interesting to me. And I want to see how it works out. And it looks fantastic.
I think it's more interesting because they're also blending some of the elements like kicking a chicken and stuff that we know from the Fable series, but also seemingly making it its new own thing where they're actually riffing more off the word Fable and actually bringing, Aesop's fables and other fables into the actual game as well, which I think is a really interesting premise as well. So
that's quite cool.
Well, Yeah, well, that was kind of the point of the first game. Was there was an age of heroes, but they have long gone. There haven't been any heroes seen in Albion for
Yeah.
so long that people think they're fables. They were made up stories, and then you become a hero, and then and then as the series progresses, there's lots of heroes.
Yeah.
But I love those games. Flaws, warts and alls, I absolutely love those games, and I can't wait for this to come back. And again, I've mentioned on this before, but I really like the idea. Like when we used to play these, when these games first were around, it's like, oh, it's what's her face from Absolutely Fabulous. It's Stephen Fry. It's Ben Kingsley. All these British talents that are voice acting in it. The guy who played Bricktop in Snatch, and then when we get to this one, it's like, all right, we've got Super Hands from Peep Show. We got Richard Ayoade. You're like, all right, I'm in. Do it.
Yeah.
More of that.
The one thing that amuses me about this news is there's like a Reddit subforum where people like post leaks and rumors and stuff like that, which I keep an eye on every now and then. And like about a month or so back, someone on there was like, well, actually, I have a top tip that a bunch of people in Guildford were all drinking and celebrating, and could this be because Fable has gone gold? No, it wasn't.
No.
No, they tend to announce when a
Well
game's gone gold.
Yeah. They're just
Probably
like,
just someone's birthday.
Have we reached an important milestone on
dimwit.
Fable? Oh, there'll be some Fable news soon, I guarantee it.
Dan, I thought you were off this week.
And another thing about Destiny is...
What that voice is, but I like it. Moving on, and this is a shame because, well, I mean, it's a shame for many reasons, but so first of all, Monolith has been shut down along with some other studios as well from Warner Brothers Games. That includes so Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and Warner Brothers San Diego. And with that, they're canceling the planned Wonder Woman game.
Boo.
There have been a lot of weird things going on at Warner Brothers of late, not just the video games, but the movies as well. Much like many other high-profile sort of studios, they've gone for the monetization route for a lot of games, and it's kind of bit them in the arse. Multiverses could have been a competent, like Smash Brothers, let's go up against them, but it was very focused on, free-to-play, sell the characters, all that kind of thing. We had the
business decisions ruined that game, but the worst one of them was just taking it away for 6 months for no apparent reason and then bringing it back.
Yeah, ruined it.
Dumbasses. Anyway,
absolutely knocked all the wind out of its sails.
Yeah.
Rocksteady, when when the leaders left and a lot of their main developers left, they're like, okay, so here's a monetized Suicide Squad game.
Yeah.
When Warner Brothers Montreal got denied making a canonical sequel to Arkham Knight that stars Damian Wayne and uses the as Batman and uses the what's it called system, the Nemesis system, which sounded really cool. And they went, no, make a monetized games as service Bat Family game. Oh no, that's backfiring. Turn it into a multiplayer, non-live service game that feels really soulless and broken.
There's literally no video game property that Warner Brothers own, apart from Mortal Kombat, that they haven't ruined in the last few years. And I mean, think
technically,
the only reason
Harry
they haven't
Potter,
ruined Mortal Kombat is because they've left it to its own devices. Like they haven't got involved, basically.
Yeah, like Hogwarts Legacy sold 30 million units.
Mortal Kombat. Hogwarts Legacy's done really well. So much so that they're not just working. They've pulled resources from other Warner Brothers studios to work on, including Rocksteady, to work on the director's cut of that game, which baffles me. Like, just do the sequel. But they're also doing the sequel. But yeah, squeeze as much money as you can out of those Potter fans because they will spend it. London is a testament to that because of the amount of flipping Harry Potter pop-up shops we've got unofficial all over the place. But like the decision to go, okay, so Mortal Kombat 11 did really, really well. Let's not make a Injustice game. Let's go straight to another Mortal Kombat game that sold okay, didn't do as well as Mortal Kombat 11, and the DLC reportedly didn't sell as well as they thought it would, the season pass, the new expansions and stuff. Because I think you need that gap in between the series where you go, right, work on Mortal Kombat, work on Injustice, work on Mortal Kombat, work on Injustice, and you've got that separation and long enough to make you excited for the next game. Instead, and also because they went Mortal Kombat 1, which, admittedly on this show as well, everyone thought it was a reboot of Mortal Kombat, not a continuation of 11. So some very weird decisions. And reportedly, a lot of weird decisions with Monolith. Allegedly, what happened is they make Shadow of Mordor. Absolutely fantastic. Loads of games of the years. They win game BAFTAs and all kinds of things. And then they do Shadow of War, and it becomes one of the most controversial games of that year, alongside Battlefront 2, because microtransactions, loot boxes, you name it, it's thrown in there, that they have to do a complete hard pivot around this. And then they go, okay, right, we want to make this amazing RPG using the Nemesis system. This is how but instead of focusing it on the enemies or on the players that you work with, we want to focus it on the world. And we're going to basically make an RPG on steroids. And this is what we got. And it's going to be amazing. And then the higher ups go, no, make a DC game. And they went, all right, I suppose we'll make Wonder Woman. And then the heads of Monolith leave. They take all their best people with them. They're now in EA making that Black Panther game, not the Black Panther Captain America game, the other Black Panther game. So I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be amazing. Yeah. And instead, they're working on this Wonder Woman game that's this crew that doesn't consist of the people that were influential to making the original Shadow of Mordor game. Everyone hoping it's going to be like a Shadow of Mordor game.
And now Warner Brothers own the license to the Nemesis system, won't license to anyone, and don't have anyone decent to make a game with it anymore.
Well,
Brilliant.
they have.
They don't have the license.
They
own the patent. They own the patent till 2036 before anyone can use that technology.
Jeez.
Or anything similar to, most likely, without fear of being sued. So then they're working on this Wonder Woman game. We find out through Jason Schreier earlier in the year that it actually got rebooted at the start of last year, although they'd already poured $100 million into the game. So you can expect at the point of cancellation, it's probably around $150 million.
Yeah.
It's not been great for old Warner Brothers Interactive. So that is a shame. They're now focusing on things that they own the rights to and they don't have to license out anywhere. So Game of Thrones, DC, Mortal Kombat, Harry Potter, see more emphasis on that. It's a shame. Monolith, they were great, but it seems like they were gone before we realized they were gone. Like we're hearing reports now that Rocksteady are working on a Batman game, a single player Batman game. A lot of people are really excited about that, but at the same time, it's like, but all the people that worked on those games aren't there.
Yeah.
They've gone off. They're doing other things. So who knows?
Yeah, there's no way to sugarcoat it. This news just sucks. Like, I know people have been personally affected by this. Like, obviously, the last 2 years, we've had tons of cuts. Like, there's been cuts at my company. Like, it just sucks all the time. And the thing that's really frustrating is, like, the thing that you learn from, like, working in games on this side is that no one sets out to make a bad game. No one sets out to make something that's unideal. All of these decisions for like things like monetization, stuff like that, are usually decided by someone who's not like developing it, who's not like close to the heart of it. And it sucks because everyone puts like their time and their heart into it. Every game that you don't want to be like a, 6 out of 10, that's a 6 out of 10. People have spent hundreds of hours trying to make that good. And it's not, it's not great when it happens, but yeah, Monolith have made some fantastic games. Warner Brothers, like all the games they've made, everyone has tried. And it just sucks that this is what's happened. So, yeah. Sorry, that's not a fun, positive joke, but yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, Ed. So lastly, Assassin's Creed Shadow, that got leaked out a month early. There are physical copies out there. It's being streamed. It's being clipped. It's being written about. Watch out for spoilers if you are excited about that game. I'll be playing that game, talking about it on the show. We've got to wait a month. Sorry, we'll see how that goes. Right, that is all the news we've got time for this week, and we are going to wrap up. But before we wrap up, I will say that you should go to tpublic.com/stores/BRB. That's where we keep our merch. You can find such cool things like t-shirts and mugs and stickers and a wide array of products that feature amazing designs, such as Zangief from Street Fighter in a very kind of communist Russia sort of maybe slightly controversial design these days, but it's still very good. We've got the Tabletop Tuesday Kaiju shirt. We've got the Sonic the Hedgehog Mega Drive shirt. We've got BRB UK designs like Back to the what was the BRB to the Future? Was that it?
Yeah, BRB to the Future, episode 400.
Thank you, Ed, the man who wrote that show. And we've also got the Eating My Dust shirt with Dan as a teenager being on Games World.
My
and we like
front
to
door
embarrass him about it.
doorbell just went, and I'm the only one here, so I have to answer it. I don't know why.
Run. Go. We'll cover this without you.
We'll vamp, Tim.
We'll do this. All right.
He did say
I own one of these t-shirts. It's very nice.
I'm going to mute Tim. Hold on 1 second.
All right.
Because his thing's going to keep going. Okay. Yes, I personally have got the Tabletop Tuesday shirt. I put it in orange because I got it in orange. It is a very nice looking shirt. The orange really works on the kaiju design. And of course, if you get the Eating My Dust shirt, you could wear Dan's face on whatever appendage of your body you wish. I would recommend that you wear it on your torso rather than wear, torso trousers as we call shirts these days, rather than wearing it upside down, because there's that hole in the middle. And if you're not going to sew that up, could cause a bit of problem when you are outside in the pub.
I mean, legally speaking, once you own the shirt, you can do whatever you want with it. We're just giving you recommendations.
You can do whatever you want with Dan's face. Tim said, I was looking, I couldn't see them. I don't know if it's true, but Tim said that you can get the designs on cushions now, which, as we've mentioned, you could print Dan's face on a cushion and then sit on Dan's face. Or you could snuggle it like a very small body pillow. Anyway, that is tpublic.com/stores/BRB. And Tim is back, so let's talk about Tuesdays, because Tim loves talking about Tuesdays.
I love Tuesdays. What did he do in my absence, or will I have to wait for the podcast to find out?
You'll have to wait.
Okay.
No, I'm cutting that bit out. I vamped perfectly, buddy.
Tabletop Tuesday is indeed on this Tuesday and each and every Tuesday. And each and every Tuesday, we do an event called Tabletop Tuesday at the Loading Bar in Stoke, Newington. Every Tuesday, we have a different feature game. If you play that feature game in the evening, you have a chance of winning a copy of the game at the end of the evening. This week's feature game is a game called Ashore. It's a kind of story-based game. It should be interesting. We'll do it as part of our social games night. There'll also be some other stuff going on. I'll be doing my charity challenge and a few other things. There are more details on the right-hand side of bigredbarrel.com, or you can search for Tabletop Tuesdays on meetup.com and join the over 2,200 members in our meetup group. Or just come along to Loading Bar in Stoke Newington, and you could win a copy of Ashore just by trying it out on the evening. We also have double the amount of copies to play as normal. There'll be 4 copies available and 2 copies to win on the night. So double prizes. A good reason to come along this Tuesday and join us at the Loading Bar in Stoke Newington.
That sounds fantastic. And where can they go?
Tabletop Tuesday at the Loading Bar in Stoke Newington. Go there on the 4th of March. My brain is not working now. On the 5th of March, and go and play whatever game Tim said, because my brain just switched off.
Washed ashore.
It's because you're not wearing the hat anymore.
Washed
the hat gave you your powers.
Once again, it's someone washing up on a shore.
I was going to say, much like a Dragon, Yakuza in Pirates.
Avowed, it's the theme of the week, being washed ashore. For sure.
So wash yourself ashore to Loading Bar in Stoke Newington on the 4th of March. Okay, we should get the hell out of here because we have gone over
20 minutes ago.
And Tim's got to run
LFG
away.
gamers.
Yeah. But Tim was late, so let's keep him going.
I was 3 minutes late. We're 20 minutes late, but okay.
Yeah, but you spoke for 30, so it's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so for this episode of BRB UK 626. Oh, I forgot to say, sorry. BigRebel.com, go there for all our links and stuff and social media. Do that. Go check out our TikTok. Yes, thank you very much.
Good work on
Ed,
the shorts,
thank
Mr.
you.
Coleman, as well. I don't mean the shorts you're wearing. I mean the ones you're putting up on TikTok and other places.
YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikToks. I think they're just called TikTok.
Tickety-tockety ticks.
Ed, thanks for jumping in and filling in for Dan and
always
being our Like a Dragon / Yakuza aficionado. Anything you need to plug, buddy?
No, just buy Square Enix products, please. Like,
All right. How about you?
Okay.
How about you
They're
name all the
good.
games they've got coming out this year?
I don't think I can because I know stuff that you
Starting from today. Just go for.
starting from
I tell you
today.
what, start from We'll be generous. Start from January. Just tell us all the Square Enix
Start from
games, and then
January.
we'll tell the listeners to buy them.
So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out now on
PC.
Steam. It's also verified on Steam Deck. It's also on Epic Games Store. There's also a double pack where if you purchase the game, you can also purchase it with Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is also Steam Deck verified. Later in the year, we have Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D, which is the follow-on from Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, which launched last year. And I think that is all I can talk about. So
No, tell us all the unannounced games as well. while you're at it.
okay. So
Yarr.
also if you've not played it, last year Life is Strange Double Exposure launched. Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven also launched. It is a stellar JRPG that is a remake of a Super Famicom game, but it's done by the people who did the Trials of Mana remake in 2020. So very good pedigree of studio, very great JRPG, and you should check that out as well, I guess. Also play 7 Rebirth. It's phenomenal. It's probably my favourite game of last year. So, yeah.
Go check that out. He's joke sound on things. That's good.
On
All
Blue
right.
Sky, I'm just Ed Price, but also don't find me. Don't talk to me. Don't at me.
All right.
Don't do any of
don't
those
do that.
things.
That's a shame.
Don't do that.
Don't
Don't
Assassins
find
from
me.
previous employers will come get him.
Don't ask me my opinions on things. I will give them to you, and it'll be your life you don't get back. Like,
What are your opinions on every upcoming Square Enix game, Ed?
Great.
Okay, so
You should
for
buy
this
them.
episode of BRB UK 626, I have been Coleman.
I might have been Tim.
And you should buy Square Enix products. I've been Ed. Nice to be here.
Until next time, dear listeners, a good yarr!
This journey with living the dream. Rush seats, everybody get them sometimes. Tossing, twisted, ship is drifting. Storm clouds bring thunder and lightning. Waves come crashing, it's a little frightening. Stay cool, cause there'll be another sunrise. Deep breath, okay, blue sky, new day. Upgrade, take it to a new level. Treasures waiting, spirits on a mantle.
You and your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarrel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarrel.com.
And we should jump into the news. I need a news stinger.
I mean, I would say the BBC News at 10 from the 90s, but you probably get shot by the king for that.
Did you say Thames Television? Of course.